Conflict resolution is the methods used to solve or bring closure to a disagreement between people over part of a project. They can include avoiding or withdrawing, moving on without solving the conflict, diffusion or smoothing, minimizing the conflict by improving interpersonal relationships, compromise, the preferred method where all parties are in a balanced situation, confrontation or power, when one person intimidates the other to solve the problem, compromising or collaborating, when two or more people work together successfully, talking through the conflicts and challenges. How does this fit into the project management process? Up to 20% of the project manager's time can be spent dealing with conflict resolution. Conflicts can occur at any step or any time. This can happen at any time in any project management or an instructional design, and the conflict needs to be solved in a way that work can progress. Manage the conflicts to keep them small. Part of being the project manager is to stay on top of conflicts. If you can anticipate them and control for them, great. If you can anticipate them and let your team know when they'll occur, that's good too. As the project manager, you need to be sure that the conflicts that arise are dealt with in a timely manner so that they don't interrupt the flow of the project or the schedule. Remember to listen when another person on your team is bringing a problem to you. This will help develop the trust that you need within your team to allow you to solve problems and work together. Variety of methods to solve the conflicts. There are a variety of methods that were discussed on the previous slide to help you solve the conflicts. While this slide only lists 5, there are many more. Why do I need to know this for project management? Conflicts need to be solved at every step of project management. Every step from initiation to completion can include multiple conflicts and problems that need to be solved before the work can be completed. The project manager is often the mediator when 2 or more people disagree during a project. Without conflict resolution, the project could not be completed, or there will be a lack of trust between people on the team. Without the trust, the work project could fall apart and be deemed a failed project. Conflicts in the workplace are an everyday occurrence, and they're not exclusive to one field of work. What are the impacts of using conflict resolution in project management? Avoiding or withdrawing is usually really when one person gives in to the other person, and they're moving on with the work, but they're not really solving the conflict. Confrontation or power is very similar. One person gives in to the other person, but it's usually more a show of strength as far as who, not necessarily the better idea, but who is the person who outranks. Compromise or collaboration, it's when 2 people work together to successfully talk through the conflict and the challenge. And it's very similar to diffusion or smoothing, when 2 people minimize the conflict by improving the interpersonal relationship. Compromise is the one that is preferred the most, basically because all parties are in a balance, and it's usually finding the middle way and the best solution. There are really 3 best practices for conflict resolution. Compromising or collaboration is whenever 2 or more people work together successfully from the beginning. They talk through the conflicts, they talk through the challenges, they read each other's work, they figure out how to trade things, they use their words to figure out the solutions. Diffusion or smoothing is when you're minimizing the conflict by improving interpersonal relationships. It's very similar to compromising and collaborating, but it also goes through and smooths the way for future projects. If you think about it, you're more likely to work smoothly with someone that you've already had a simple, easy relationship with in the past, and who you're still friendly with. Compromise is the preferred method when all parties are in a balanced situation. What should be kept in mind when using conflict resolution? Meet in person. If you cannot meet in person, face-to-face through video conferencing or a personal connection of some type needs to take place. Present the perspective. Allow all people to present their perspective without criticism. Paraphrase and focus on facts and data. The project manager should check for a clear understanding of the conflict and what is taking place. Compromise and win-win. Look for the middle ground solution. Forcing a solution as a "because I said so" maneuver can be damaging to the way your team trusts you. Sally, John, Betty, and Jane are working in a group to create a poster about an extinct animal they've read about. John has been assigned the job of driver of the technology device. Sally has assumed control of the poster and is designing and creating it without input from other students. Betty has quietly gotten extra paper to draw on and is drawing superheroes. Jane was absent the first day of the project and has been relegated to not having input in the project. Sally reaches over the markers Betty is using to draw with and picks up the black marker to use. Betty shrieks, "Oh no, she's stealing it!" Sally drops the marker and looks at the nearest teacher. The teacher reminds Betty that they need to share the markers and that Sally needs to use it for the moment. The teacher asks Betty if there is another color she could use at the moment that Sally could trade her for. Betty says, "Green." Sally reaches over, finds the green marker, and trades Betty for the black marker. The work on the poster continues. Who is the conflict between? Betty and Sally. What's causing the conflict? Betty wants to have the black marker while Sally needs the marker to complete the work. It's a sharing of resources challenge. Who mediates the conflict? The teacher. Because these students are 6 and 7, usually the teacher ends up helping. What method was used to mediate the conflict? The teacher used compromise to solve the situation by having Betty and Sally trade marker colors. The original method that Betty and Sally used independently was confrontation. Bob and Steve are economists. Steve has been with the company for several years, while Bob is fresh from graduate school. They have a report to write with several questions that need to be answered for the customer. Bob uses technology to write the report and collaborate on different sections with other members of the team. Steve edits and reviews Bob's work and posts several comments of, "This needs to be deleted." Bob is frustrated that his economic analysis is being deleted from the report. Steve explains in external reports they need to be concise and only answer the pertinent questions. While the analysis is interesting to other economists, it will not help to concisely explain the answer to the client. Bob understands and begins to answer reports more concisely without pages of analysis. Who is the conflict between? Bob and Steve. What is causing the conflict? Bob does not answer information concisely. He over-explains why he believes in his information. Who mediates the conflict? Steve. What method was used to mediate the conflict? Power. Because Steve is senior to Bob, Bob chose not to argue with Steve and to accept that the report did not need the added information. Why research conflict resolution? Conflicts occur each day. I work in 6 classrooms during a normal school day, and no matter what room I'm in, I deal with conflicts. They're between the students sometimes between myself and another teacher, sometimes between the students and the teacher, and sometimes between the student and themselves. It's nice to have these extra tools to help in a variety of situations, and it's just more tools in your toolbox, I guess, for knowing how to go through and deal with all of these conflicts. This is helpful moving into leadership positions. Moving forward in my career, I'd like to move into a leadership position, and having the ideas of how to resolve a conflict will be helpful to know and practice now before dealing with bigger and larger conflicts. My previous experience in conflict resolution was challenging. It was quite poor, quite honestly. I didn't know how to solve problems between different people, and I assumed that the adults would problem solve on their own. This usually led to work that wasn't done. It usually led to complete and total stoppage of the work while somebody else above me went through and figured it out.